I first have to start with an apology. I'm sorry, but I'm about to make all of you guys just a little bit uncomfortable. The thing is, gender discrimination and sexism is an uncomfortable topic. And you know, without becoming uncomfortable, no change ever really happens. So it's really important that we're having this discussion today. So the people that normally experience gender discrimination, they're women, people of colour, and also those that identify as LGBTI. The thing is, it's not any one person's fault, but it is because we live in a society that teaches us how to see gender. And you know, the thing is because no one person is at fault. You can't take personal responsibility. But you can find fault when you notice the problems but choose to do nothing about it. So the reason why I'm standing here today, I want to talk a little bit about how things are, with a little bit of change, how great things could be. I also want to share a few methods with how we can get there, because equality should be a human right, and it turns out that it's actually quite good for business. So, to quote Carol Christ, when one woman shares her experience, another woman who has stayed quiet for fear of persecution can find validation. When that second woman says, yeah, actually, that was my experience too, then the first woman can lose a little bit of fear. So, I'm not a scientist, I don't study gender, but I am a woman, and I've been working in some really respected coffee businesses for almost 15 years now. The thing is that standing in this beautiful green circle, I am acutely aware of my privilege. English is my first language. I'm white, and I was also born into a first world country. So what I want to do is I want to use this space and this stage to use my voice so that I can speak for others that might not have had the opportunity to. So I had some really interesting conversations putting this talk together, and one of those conversations was with Erin McCarthy, who's a former World Brewers Cup champion. And the thing that was said was that sometimes we can feel like we're, being too loud, too angry when we try to call people out on their sexist and racist bullshit. But the thing is, that is how this perpetuates itself. And it is a really hard thing to try and be an ally to someone experiencing oppression. But, we need to persevere because that's the only way things change. So, I have a challenge for you guys today. I have a task for you. I want you to all leave, and I want you to take this challenge that, this is a room of pretty privileged people, whether you're here on your company's money or whether you're here as the RICO Fellowship. We're a room of really privileged people. So yeah, I want to challenge you as influential and privileged people to leave this room to become an ally to change. So, in 2012, I got headhunted to Tim Wendelboe in Norway. And it's a great business. He actually hires mostly women, and they actually call themselves the Wendell Babes, and I think that's pretty cool. But the thing is, when I started there, they'd actually never had a female coffee roaster, and I think that's crazy. The reason why I was hired into the position is because I had been doing professional weightlifting at the time, so I was really strong. Don't do it anymore, though. And the thing was, that the only litmus test of me getting the job was my muscles. Like, not my qualifications, not the fact that I was a Q grader, and, not any of my previous career stuff. It was crazy. And you see that reflected in a lot of culture. In the States, 86% of people roasting are men. And the thing is, I just refuse to believe that the weight of a coffee bag is the only thing stopping women from gaining access to this industry. So I have a cool little video to share with you. This is Wrecking Ball Roasters in San Francisco, and it's owned by two of my favourite coffee people, Trish Rothgeb and Nick Cho. We all know that coffee bags are kind of heavy, and when you're roasting coffee, you can be lifting a lot during the day. They were looking for a roasting apprentice, and they found Manti Spirito. She's a really brilliant coffee professional. Thing is that she weighs 50 kilos, which is really not enough if you're going to do all that lifting, right? So they thought maybe they can't hire her, and that's a real shame. But they're really clever at Wrecking Ball, and you know what they did? They made a thing. So this one, it's $150 US, and it's a hoist. So what you do is you move the pallet underneath the hoist, you cut the bag open, you attach the hoist to the bag, and then the hoist does all the lifting for you. And I mean, the thing is that I know that this isn't just for women either, because I know plenty of guys who have put their back out lifting coffee. So yeah, definitely not just for women, and an awesome way to make your business a little bit more inclusive. And it's super cheap as well, 150 bucks. Yeah, nothing. But look at how easy this is. 50 kilos, and she does all that work. It's totally cool. Now I've seen that, I want to share a little bit of data with you. Turns out the more inclusive your business is to multiple genders, the more profit you can make. There was a study done by Thomson Reuters in 2012 where they found that companies with more women on the board actually made 17% higher returns in sales, which is so much money, and also 54% return on capital investment. And that's just for having less dudes in your work. So more women equals more money. All right. And while I'm talking about money, it would be totally remiss of me not to address this because it's a really serious thing. So I was lucky enough to gain access to the SEA Barista Compensation Survey. And the original reason for this survey was to find out if certification impacted earning potential. But I was lucky enough to get the raw data, and I teased it apart, and I found something actually really terrifying, that women were actually more educated. The women that answered the survey, there was 712 people. The women were more educated. They always had higher than high school education. They'd been working in the industry the same time as the men, but they were earning $7,000 per year less. That's terrible. That, over a lifetime, that's an extraordinary amount of money. So some people say to me when I have this conversation about the wage gap, they're like, oh, you know, women just don't fight for themselves when they're talking about their salaries. And I have a personal story that might make you think twice about that. So I got promoted in my job, and I was like, you know what? People keep on saying that women don't fight for their salaries. So I want to go in, I want to find out what my maximum worth is, and I want to go in and I want to really negotiate, blue ball negotiate. So I sent a message to one of my former male colleagues who was doing the same job that I was doing. He'd left the company. And so I sent him a message and I was like, hey, going in for this negotiation, I want to know what my max worth is. So would you mind sharing salary with me? And not only did he not reply to the message, he unfriended me afterwards and didn't want to talk to me anymore. And I'm devastated because I think I lost a friend just because I wanted to get paid the same amount of money, which doesn't seem very fair, but oh well. So yeah, after I left that position, a man stepped into my role, and he ended up getting more money, more flexibility in his position, and he got a company phone. I got nothing, damn it. All right, so I actually wanted to start an initiative, and you guys might think I'm crazy, but let's give it a go. So in Norway, up until 2012, personal salaries were public information. And I know that those of you not living in a social democracy is like, isn't that crazy? But the thing is, all it did was promote harmony and transparency in businesses. And I mean, if you look at it, Norway is actually known as one of the top countries in the world for gender equality. So I mean, that's saying something. But yeah, they found that pay inequality undermines initiatives in businesses that are trying to strive for gender equality. So maybe sharing your salaries is a good idea. I think that it's bullshit that salaries are taboo. Because the people that are losing out are the people that are oppressed when we don't have these conversations. So right now, because this is a room of privileged people, this is a way that people with privilege can actually take really viable action for change. So as a sign of solidarity, to start the ball rolling, I'm going to share my previous salary with you guys. So as a full-time worker, working in the industry for 14 years, really super qualified, done lots of jobs, worked for a lot of awesome people, I was earning equivalent to $42,000 per year. And in Norway, that's actually a really modest salary. It's pretty hard to get by on that, to be honest. And I would really love if anyone was brave enough to share this, because I'm going to post it online. After I step off this stage, I'm going to put it out on my social media, and I'm going to be like, hey, this is what I was earning, this is what you should be earning, let's fight for change. And the thing is I'm about to open a business, and I genuinely cannot wait to be transparent with my employees because I really want them to know that they're getting their maximum worth from me. So something else about gender equality, it's actually not just for women. Women can lose a lot of momentum in their career when they leave to be mothers. They can get stalled in their career, or they can lose it altogether. But the thing is that it happens to, there's consequences for men too. So it's pretty common in the developed world that men don't get to stay home with their newborns. And that has really big consequences for family relationships and childhood development. I mean, my dad was never around, he was always working, and I'm much closer to my mum, and that's saying something. So it reinforces stereotypes about genders. And I actually someone got in touch with me about this, and it was a pretty crazy story. So this guy's a veteran barista, and his wife is actually the main breadwinner in the family. She brings in the big bucks. So he got a call from his child's school saying, hey, your kid's sick, someone needs to come and pick her up. And so he said to his boss, hey, I need to go, my kid's sick, need to go pick her up. And his boss laughed in his face. And he expected his wife to finish whatever she was doing and go and pick up the kid. That's gender stereotypes right there. And you know, it just means that the woman is kind of expected to take the brunt of parenting. And it definitely should be equal. So in Scandinavia, there's laws protecting parents' rights. But at the moment, in practice, it's really only paying lip service. And I think that it's something that really needs to change. Peter Giuliano posted a tweet a little while ago that caught my eye. And I really liked it because I think a lot about empathy a lot. He then went on to pen a blog post about the importance of compassion as a barista skill. He told me later on as well that when he was a barista, you know, his understanding of empathy that came from that role kind of followed him through all aspects of his career and really helped him through his career. The thing, though, that we need to realize is that empathy is actually socialized into and attributed mostly to women. Women are often promoted less out of service work. So, you know, when you think about it, being empathetic at work is quite a taxing burden to carry, to do it for your entire career. So yeah, managing emotions in the workplace and managing empathy and being empathetic, it's really important. When it's not managed correctly, there can be significantly damaging health outcomes and high staff turnover, so that means extra cost for business. Similar to empathy, emotional labour was a term coined by Ali Hochschild in 1983 in her book, The Managed Heart. And she defines it as a personal manipulation of inward emotion to satisfy job requirements. And what she does is she uses stewardesses a lot as her examples. But I actually think a more modern example of it is third wave coffee shops. Because baristas, it's kind of their job to suppress their internal feelings on the daily basis for customers. And you know, we need to really recognise the long-term effects of that emotional manipulation in service work, because women are stuck behind the bar longer, it's more likely to affect them. So yeah, it's really important to recognise and celebrate empathy and emotional labour in the workplace, because it just makes everybody's life easier. Just so I wasn't talking at you guys, I did a little bit of work before I came here. I took a Google survey and shared it on my social media. There was 144 people that responded to the survey, and it was almost an equal split of genders. There were some pretty devastating stories that were shared with me, actually. The most fascinating part of it was that 95% of the dudes that replied to this survey told me that they'd never had to experience any kind of gender discrimination whatsoever. Some of them didn't even know what it was. What's that? Anyway, there was, one of the guys actually had experienced when his workplace had tried to promote more women into management, he had lost a promotion because it was given to a woman. And he seemed pretty annoyed about that. But, you know, 32% of women hadn't experienced gender discrimination, and I celebrate that fact. When I found it out, I was like, you know what, I'm so stoked for those ladies that they've never had to deal with that, and all the power to them. But the one thing that I did find was that the longer a woman was working in the specialty industry, the more likely it was that she's going to face discrimination at some point. The thing that I heard over and over again was that these women were not taken seriously in their roles. And I actually find that more and more. I'm opening this business. I have a male business partner. I haven't taught him how to roast coffee yet. But every time we have a conversation with a builder or someone about the specs of the roaster, they always turn to him and say like, oh, can you tell us like the diameter of the chimney? And he's like, well, I don't know, ask her. I think the saddest story that kind of came out of it was somebody shared with me that they'd been doing an unpaid internship for 3 months in a roastery. And she was super excited that she was going to be offered a full-time job at the end of this work. But the thing was, on her last day, the head roaster turned around and said, like, of course I'm not going to hire you. Like, you're too small for this job. And, you know, the story was kind of repeated over and over again. So many women were denied opportunities because of their size and their supposed lack of intellect because they were women. And there were stories of sexual harassment, there was belittlement, there was people that were just like, let me speak to your manager. And then they said, but I'm the manager. And they're like, you can't be the manager. Yeah. And no one was trusting their expertise. So this is kind of reflected in my own experience. I'm constantly reminded of the reality of being a female in the coffee industry. I've had underqualified men be promoted over me when I was way overqualified. I've been managing shops and had my male co-managers be offered shares when I was offered nothing. I've had male bosses try to use their authority to coerce me into uncomfortable sexual situations. When I am in power or have authority, I'm seen it as aggressive and emotional. When I'm assertive, I get called a bitch. So yeah, 14 years of this. And the thing is, it's like, I want to use this space to just use my voice and use my strength to make sure that maybe the people coming up behind me don't have to deal with this. So after all of that negative stuff, let's get to some positive stuff. So the thing is, the burden of oppression usually falls on the shoulders of the people being oppressed, but it's up to all of us, men and women, to kind of band together and to make positive change. One of the ways you can do that is through mentorships. There is really valuable insight that can come from people that have forged the path before you. So if you see someone that has passion and you want to foster it, just put out a hand and say, like, maybe I can help you with that. Again, sharing salaries is something that is the most tangible thing that can come out of this talk. If you're a man and you're working in a business and you have the same role as a woman, maybe it's worth like saying, hey, let's go get a beer, and just dropping it in conversation. Maybe you might really change that woman's life or that person's life. Another new frontier is encouraging emotion. That's between you and your customers, that's between people in your workplace. By fostering and encouraging emotion, we can make workplaces more inclusive spaces. You also need to be an advocate. So really gut check your reactions to things. Why do you feel what you feel about the quality of someone's work? Another really positive tool that you can use is be proactive in your hiring. So maybe you can look for non-traditional candidates. Maybe your company can benefit from having greater gender equality. So you can be an ally, and most importantly, you can listen. So that's the end of my talk, but I have just one more thing to share with you guys, and you have to bear with me. So at the end of my survey, I left this big open text box, and I said to people, you know, how do you think we can change things? What do you think we can do to make this less of a problem? And an anonymous poster sent this to me, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, so I really want to share it with you guys. She said, equal opportunity doesn't just mean treating everyone equally from this point onwards, although that's part of it. It also means lending a hand to those who have fallen behind and bringing them to an equal level. It means we have to do more to promote women, people of colour, and other groups that don't have equal representation. And for an industry as big and as widespread as coffee, which covers all parts of the world, and with such an astonishing breadth of cultures and attitudes, it's actually kind of an impossible task to tackle. It will be harder in some places than others, but we have to start somewhere. And in each place, once we start, we have to keep going until it's achieved everywhere the specialty coffee industry is. Thank you for your time, guys. Hope you have an awesome time.